Illinois Congressman Peter Roskam says he has big concerns about unemployment, especially when health care reform kicks in. The Republican represents the 6th district in the western suburbs, and he's kind to join us here in the studio tonight. So, Congressman, Democrats roundly have said this one is going to create jobs. What do you say?
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. You don't have to look any farther locally than Caterpillar, who announced that the cost of the health care bill, that mandate was going to cost $100 million to that Illinois company in the first year alone. Similarly, John Deere said $150 million, and the list goes on and on and on with companies like Verizon and AT&T. So, look, Illinois is struggling incredibly, and the last thing in the world Illinois businesses need, from what I'm hearing from business leaders, is another mandate that's going to cost jobs and cost productivity at a time when our unemployment rate exceeds the national average by about 2%.
But certainly it cannot be argued that at least in the healthcare sector, jobs are going to be created. Will they not be?
Well, look, think about the types of opportunities that are lost when a company like Caterpillar says they have to charge down $100 million in the first year alone. So creating some public sector opportunities, yeah, that may have a de minimis impact. That's sort of like the census hiring that has had a short-term boost in the unemployment scene. But ultimately, if you want long-term sustainable growth, which everybody says they're for in Illinois, you've got to create an environment where that's possible. And that becomes impossible, in my view, to have the type of robust growth if companies like Caterpillar and Deere are saying they're going to be having this charge against them to the tune of $100 and $150 million in year one.
You were one of the key Republicans negotiating with the White House over health care reform. Is there anything about this bill and the final product that you like? Give me like 3 quick examples.
Well, I
please.
think there's a couple that come to mind. I'm in favor of the idea of younger Americans being able to stay, young adults staying on their parents' plan up until their mid-20s. That makes perfect sense. I'm in favor of the removal of the lifetime caps that have to do with the amount of coverage that is available to individuals under their policy. That makes a great deal of sense. But where it becomes very difficult, in my view, is this idea of cutting $500 billion out of Medicaid and out of Medicare, not using that savings to make Medicare more robust, and instead starting a new entitlement program that we can really ill afford.
Congressman, on the other side of the aisle, Jesse Jackson Jr. held a town hall district meeting last night. The Democrats said that there was a major misunderstanding of the health care reform plan. Let's take a listen now.
The biggest misconception is that this is some kind of government takeover of health care, that it is somehow this massive federal intervention into the lives of average, ordinary people. But for this massive reform, nearly 40 million Americans would be left out of the process of health coverage.
I imagine you don't see eye to eye on that, do you
not?
Well,
I don't. I think Congressman Jackson is arguing in the alternative. In one case, he's saying this isn't a massive undertaking, and in its next breath, he's saying it takes and it helps, in his view, 40 million Americans. You really can't have it both ways. I think you look to the Congressional Budget Office, who said in the first year alone, the enforcement of this is going to cost $1 billion in an increased IRS budget.
Congressman, before we let you get away, we got to talk about some of the bitterness surrounding the health care reform debate. I mean, today, someone was arrested for threatening phone calls targeting House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Yesterday, there was an arrest involving a similar case with Senator Patty Murray of Washington State. Has either party done enough to condemn this kind of reaction?
I think any threat of violence needs to be repudiated in the strongest way. Congressman Eric Cantor, a Republican from Virginia, had a bullet shot through his campaign office a week or two ago. So it's become shrill and dangerous in some cases. But we've got to make sure that we're not demonizing those thoughtful Americans simply because they're opposing what they think is a massive takeover by the federal government of 1/6 of the economy.
Congressman Roskam, we thank you for joining us.